Da 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 da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. I know I was going to show up. I am late tonight, but I am okay with being late tonight. I am finishing up a video. It just needs to be rendered now. It's like pulling teeth when it comes to editing videos for me. But every time I edit a video, I learn something and I get a little bit better. And in getting a little bit better, I get a little bit braver in experimenting in things that I can do with my editing program. And I suspect if I keep at it, right, I may not need an editor, but I'm going to get one anyway because it doesn't change the fact that I'm not a big fan of editing. But I got the job. I got the job done. And it was a hard one to do too because when I first went on my vacation, hi, if you've never met me before, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside, and I'm just coming down from a holiday that I put together. It's my stick with the bag at the end, in applying myself, in moving myself forward in the creation of the best human being I possibly can, right? And in the past few years, you know, I don't feel like I've made the kind of movement that I made in the first few years. But when I look at it further away, you know, when I don't look at what I accomplished this week or what I accomplished last week, but actually look at what I accomplished last year or what I accomplished the year before, you really do see the movement then. You really do see the growth then. Sometimes in our impatience, right? We tend to think that we're not accomplish anything at all, that we don't see that progress. And sometimes it's just because we're so close to yesterday that we're comparing ourselves now to yesterday rather than comparing ourselves now to, say, a year ago, right? 6 months ago, 5 years ago. In my case, I could go back 10 years. I've been on these platforms here for 10 years. I do believe I'm going to do a real quick check just to make sure that I'm not throwing dates out there that aren't accurate, but I do believe I'm coming up pretty close to my 10-year anniversary on YouTube. And it has been a bit of a transition for me. If you ask me when I first started on YouTube, if I'd be a master editor or if I would still be at it 10 years later, I suspect that I would have said yes, because even back then I was committed to my YouTube channel. It was my baby, it was my creation, it was everything about it had the stamp of approval of me. It had to get past me in order to be presented, right? Or to even be thought of or created. And yeah, that's my baby, and I'm proud of that. I had no intentions and have no intentions of just letting it go like that. It's my stepping stone to something. And what that is, I'm not quite sure. On those lazy days of just not doing anything except hanging out with myself, I sometimes think of these things, right? Maybe somewheres down the road that humans have, right, become extinct. And all that's left of us are these YouTube videos, right? And, there were survivors, right? Great scientists who still innovation is happening and they've created a way that possibly in a petri dish, right? And in our eyes, it looks like galaxies and universes, but in the midst of it, we're just in a petri dish. right? And we have this opportunity through that manipulation of what we don't understand because it's innovation. It's not something that's been thought of in this moment, but in the future, right? That possibly we have this opportunity to get it right, right? We could think all kinds of things, don't we? It's how movies are made, it's how books are written, it's how stories are passed down from one generation to the next, right? It is in our creative minds that we create the possibilities, right? Do you think Elon Musk is shooting for Mars without being inspired by something, right? And of course, it might have been somebody else's imagination, right? What just popped into my mind is one of the very, very first movies that was ever made, a piece of film that had ever been made, was called The Man in the Moon. It was a silent film. It was only, oh, maybe 30 seconds long, and there was a dancing lady, and there was a moon that dangled. It was all handcrafted and everything. But it was one of the first pieces of film that had ever been done, and that was innovation, right? That was something that nobody even thought the possibilities. And can you imagine, only a few decades later, the talkies happened, and in that, lots of careers were right flushed down the toilet in that, because they were so unwilling to move in the change, right? They could have had long careers. There were people that were able to manage to transition from silent movies to talkies. I can't remember a few of them. I think there were a couple of Western stars and a couple of silent actresses. I don't think Charlie Chaplin transitioned very well. I'm trying to think of any talkies that Charlie Chaplin did. Don't quite, I don't quite recall. I was a bit of a movie fanatic as a teenager. I loved the black and whites. I loved the musicals. I loved Technicolor. And even back then, I liked disaster movies in all honesty, right? That 2012 and oh my goodness, Day After Tomorrow. Uh, the very first ones that got me hooked was Earthquake and Towering Inferno. Those were big movies in the 70s. And it was a reaction, I do believe, that I got from when my dad took me to see Tower Inferno and Dolby Sound just came out, and I just felt like the whole building was shaking, and it was scary, and my dad had to take me out of the movie theater. Took me next door, got me some candy, and we went back in, right? Do you My dad was pretty smart in how he wanted to see the movie, right? Took me because I was probably the bravest of the kids, right? But he wanted that experience of Dolby Sound, and even Dolby Sound was innovation. Like I said, like, it scared me so much. It felt like the whole building was shaking. It wouldn't have been anything that any of us would have thought of or imagined, but somebody did, right? It just doesn't exist until somebody imagines it. The creation part of it, well, that's just a puzzle that can be done. The hardest part is to have the amazing ideas bubble to the surface in whatever medicine, science, right? Religion, politics, environmental, right? Human. There's lots of things. We look at the world and we just think it's a big poop hole with everything that's going on. But this kind of stuff has been going on for centuries, for thousands of years. It's this digital age that makes it so that it sits in our front room, right? And we get traumatized by that. And we get lost in things that make it so that we don't have to see it, right? That we don't have to acknowledge that its existence, right? Maybe because it says something about us not stepping in and making that change ourselves, that we don't sometimes want to see the truth because not everybody or very few do see the truth. And because we run with the majority, right? When we see this kind of stuff happen, we just kind of stand off to the side and just kind of watch it happen, right? Or wait for somebody else to take the first step. Yeah, I've had to take that first step, right? I have so I know what it's like because sometimes we freeze, right? Because we're afraid to stand up for ourselves or stand up for other people. Sometimes, right, we don't want to be targeted because lots of times when something's going on and you interfere with that plan, right? The focus comes off of that. It goes on to that. And that's, something I learned quite early in my childhood. And it was a way for me to maneuver around my everyday, day to day, in all honesty. Okay, so getting back to my editing my video, very happy that I did. I'm coming in a little bit late, but it is my day off and I wanted to feel like I had accomplished. I set the plan that video was going to be uploaded tomorrow. It was a challenging video for me because I'm missing a big part of the few first days of my trip and I had to be creative how to make it look like a beginning of my trip when in actuality, right, I've already been on the road for a few times by the time we're starting it. How good of a job I did, I don't know, right? I stuck with it. I flowed with it. It is what it is. And I'm looking forward to some of those other days on those other adventures in those provincial parks that I pretty much had a different one or every single day of my trip. It'll be a little bit different next summer. I had a fantastic time. It felt a little rushed, right? I'm losing track of what park I was in. Thank goodness I have my book here that I can reference back so I can see what day because, right, I was using a couple of cameras where the dates were not set properly. So I'm on a little bit of a content. I've challenged myself, you guys, right? I am a work in progress, and so are my videos. And so, but the experience, right? The experience was perfect. There was nothing wrong with that, right? Sometimes it's just in the way something is presented that it presents well or it doesn't. So I'm just going to throw it out there and move on to the next. You guys, my video's done for tomorrow. If you want to come in and take a look at it and let me know what you think, I'm open to suggestions. My feelings do not get, well, yeah, my feelings get hurt a little bad once in a while, but I can take it because that's the thing. None of us grow unless we're willing to step outside of ourselves. Like today, me and my sister went to Salvation Army. We take little donation bags when we go to Salvation Army, but my sister wants that discount coupon that they give people when they donate things, right? And I said, "Oh, Alice," I says, "I don't like knocking on that door and asking for a coupon. Can you do it today?" Because it doesn't bother her. She's like the bravest thing ever, right? She doesn't like change. She doesn't like change. She's not afraid of it, but she's stubborn and she doesn't like change. but she's not afraid. She's super brave, super. All my sisters are that way. I don't know. I was a little bit kinked that way, but that was because, um, well, I was sensitive, right? I had no idea from one moment to another what was coming at me, and I was a little cautious. I was a little cautious that way. But me and my sister, we went to Salvation Army today, and I asked her, I says, "Oh, you take the bag to the door today and get the coupon." She says, "Oh, yeah, no problem." I says, "Oh, forget it. Stay where you are." I says, "I've got to be able to do these kind of things by myself." I got out of the car and I grabbed the donation bag out of the back seat and right? He was already outside taking care of another lady, and I handed him the bag and I said, "Coupon, please." Gave my sister her coupon and got back in the car and drove in front of the store so we can do a little bit of shopping, right? But yeah, those are kind of things that I don't really super care about, but I do make myself do them because otherwise, how am I going to stay resilient, right? Or even be resilient? Because lots of things in my life, I let myself off the hook like that. Yeah. I had a topic for today, but I think we'll talk a little bit about it tomorrow because I think it's important because, it was something that I was able to see about myself, right? And being online and working in mindset and working in thought leadership and having that kind of influence. I want to make sure that it's influence and it's not manipulation or false information, that I'm bringing something valuable to the table. And I came across a content creator. Sorry, I don't remember his name, and he touched on a subject, and I says, "Yeah, that was me to a T." And but he got something wrong in that. He got the intent wrong, and he got the solution wrong in that. Well, I have to say he got the perspective. He hit it on the target because I saw myself as that person, but the reason in that's what he didn't quite get right. And in the reason, he possibly lost the opportunity to help, right? In that, in some way. But we'll talk about that maybe tomorrow because I've talked enough for tonight. I just wanted to pop in, hold myself accountable, say I got that video edited. I'm going to go back in, I'm going to render it, go do up a few dishes, tidy up my desk, finish my cup of coffee, and call it a day. Call it a day. It was a good day today. I liked hanging out with my sister, right? I like hanging out with all my sisters in all honesty. We don't see a lot of each other, but things work out for a reason, don't they? And I just have to trust in that, right? Yeah. It all works out in the end. Okay, you guys. That's it for tonight. We'll see you tomorrow.